it's Jacqueline. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. We're going to be discussing how to cope with a new diagnosis. Maybe you have a learning disability or a different neurodiverse condition in general. That's what I'll be focusing on today. Of course, this advice probably pertains to different disabilities as well. I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 9 and dyscalculia, which is a math learning disability, when I was 14. And being a 14-year-old, that was terrifying for me, and I'm sure it is for any stage of your life. When you're 9, honestly, you don't really remember that much. You don't recall a lot of it, at least for me. Stop generally speaking. But for me, I didn't remember a lot of the process of finding out I had dyslexia and what that meant for me in my life. However, when I was 14, I was going through a little identity crisis because I just found out that I had dyscalculia. Then I also had dyslexia, and I was like, what the heck does this mean for me in my life moving forward? I'm terrified thinking about the future. It's all too much. So I took to TikTok and I posted my story on there, got a little community on TikTok and was discussing my feelings, and found some more people who hear their own stories and how they got through it. Hi everyone, I'm editing this section in because this is really important. So I shared a journal entry that I'm about to discuss in the next clip, but I got cut out for some odd reasons. So here I am when it's nighttime and a different day completely, refilming it. I think it's just really important to show the raw and vulnerable truth of it is really hard having this new massive news of a diagnosis. And so this is a journal entry that I wrote just shortly after I got my diagnosis of dyscalculia. Just to be completely honest with you, it wasn't all rainbows and glitter and glitz and glam at the beginning. It was nothing like that for me. But in the end of this rough patch that I went through, I got to the moment of accepting myself. Here it goes. This was written on October 4th, 2020. Dear Journal, on September 18th, 2020, it was confirmed that I had dyslexia and dyscalculia. I understand that I'm different. It's just hard feeling quote-unquote less than other people. I will learn to love this gift of mine, but for now I'm just a bit sad. I'm sad I wasted many years of my life not getting the help I needed. I'm 14 and just now figuring out I have dyscalculia. I'm sad I can't do honors classes. I can't fit things into my school schedule because of what I need, like curriculum support. By the way, just a quick side note, I can take an honors class and I don't need curriculum support anymore, so that's a huge bonus. The fact that I will always have both of these learning disabilities is also a bit hard for me to cope with. I'm a happy, positive person, but I still struggle and deal with my own issues. Dyslexia and dyscalculia are something that you're born with, and it is not curable. I can learn techniques to help myself out, though. Right now I'm just in a rough patch in my life, but I will make it out all right. I know everything happens for a reason and that there is light at the end of the tunnel. I will say I do feel stupid sometimes, but I'm just unique and work differently. As you can see, that's a range of emotions, but truly that is normal when you get this huge news in your life, and you're quite young as well, being 14. Honestly, any age, anytime you get the news of having a diagnosis that you are totally unaware of, or maybe you were aware and you finally got the news and it confirmed what you thought, it's huge, it's life-altering, and there's no rule book on how you should cope with it. So this video is some advice, so take it as you will. You don't have to agree with everything that I say in this video. I just want to bring comfort to you. Since writing that 4 years later, or 3 years later, whatever the math is, I can tell you that I've embraced my learning disabilities completely. Of course I have difficult moments, that's a given, but I love myself. And if you want to do that as well, it will be challenging, but you can learn to love yourself. And so my first piece of advice is loving yourself doesn't happen overnight, but it is so worth it, trying to go to that emotional place and vulnerable place of figuring out how do you get yourself help, because sometimes asking for help is really scary, and I know that myself. It's not something glamorous. It takes a lot of courage to do that and bravery. So if you want to, you can absolutely learn to embrace and love your learning disabilities or your neurodiverse condition or whatever disability you may have found out that you have. My second thing that I just want to bring up real quickly is there's no rule book for how to live with a learning disability, in my case. There's no rule book for how to live with a lot of disabilities. There's a lot of advice out there. I'm giving you advice right now. But there's not something set in stone that's concrete that everyone can go to and be like, okay, this makes sense. This is what you do in this scenario. No, and that's what makes it so hard, kind of beautiful in a way because we can all learn together. But it makes it hard because we want structure, or at least I'm a structure girly. And when that's not in place, it can be, just like I've said a couple times, hard to deal with. There is no right or wrong way to figure out your disability for yourself. It's just on your own time, and you have to work through a lot of ups and downs to get to your end result of hopefully embracing your disability, whatever it may be. It's probably a given, but no two people are the same with their disabilities, and especially how they process their disabilities, like I kind of said previously. So here's my piece of advice. Process it however you need to process it. If that means going into a dark place, that means going into a dark place. It does not have to be all happiness and sunshine and rainbows. You can seek out a therapist. You can seek out a specialist in your disability. You can do whatever you need to do. Give yourself permission to do whatever you need to do to figure it out, to work through this huge news of getting a new diagnosis. And sometimes you need to rely on someone else to guide you through it, but processing it takes time. And sometimes you have to really carve out that time and not push the feelings way deep down inside you. You have to deal with it because it's going to creep up in your life at some point. So it's best just to do it now. I'd like to elaborate a little bit more about reaching out. When you're in the right mindset and you are willing to accept help, that is when you should go seek help. This could mean reaching out to parents, family, friends, a therapist, a specialist, a social worker, guidance counselors at your school, trusted adults, literally anyone. Just try to pick one person to go to and just explain that you have this news, and it's going to be a little bit hard for you to work through, but you want to let the other person know, and maybe they have some helpful advice for you as well. It's just really good to have a good, solidified, solid support system. Wow, that was a lot of words I probably didn't need to use. But having a good support system when you're in a rough patch, just knowing that they're going to be there for you no matter what is key, especially with a neurodiverse diagnosis. Really with any diagnosis, but so many crazy things that just kind of come flying at you at times, and that's when you need to go to your support system and just rely on them for a little bit. So many, and you're not a burden. I've said process it however you need to process it, this big news. But please try to be kind to your neurodiverse mind or whatever sort of news that you just got. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself patience. And self-care is so important, especially in these difficult times in your life. Just knowing that you can maybe journal, take a bath, skincare, go for walks, do anything that makes you feel good and happy, because I promise you, it won't do you any good just to be stuck in a negative mindset. So if you can try to creep out of it just for a few minutes, it will make you feel a little bit happier at the end of the day. I can guarantee it. Something that really helped me when I first had my diagnosis of dyscalculia was researching it. It seems so simple, yet I feel like not a lot of people do it. So here's what I want to say. Try to follow accounts on social media, whether that's TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Try to look up blogs and websites, support groups, in person or online. Again, there's also Facebook support groups, I think, too, that's quite popular. So try to immerse yourself in the culture of your disability. Figure out what works for other people. Figure out if it can work for you too, if it's attainable and achievable. There's so many things that you just don't even know about that tie into your disability, and these people who have lived experiences of your disability can help you out, so let them. A good follow-up piece of that advice of researching it is once you figure out your strengths and weaknesses and things that you like and don't like about your current setup and situation in your life, maybe it's not really disability friendly right now. Once you figure out your wants and your needs and your requirements and accommodations, etc., self-advocate. And it's really scary, and it definitely takes a lot of courage and bravery to do that very big first step, to just do the first part of standing up for yourself and explaining how your disability might affect you in different situations. But it's super important skill to learn, so you might as well start it now. You gotta work with your brain, not against it. This is the time where you're finally understanding why your brain might function and work differently. Like, truly, our brains are actually wired differently than other people. How do you work with your difference, your brain that is wired differently, and not trying to fit into the standard that wasn't built for your brain? You have to figure out different approaches and workarounds that work with your brain, that make sense to you. Although you may not feel like it right now, there are positives to having a brain that works differently. I want to put you up to a little bit of a challenge if you're willing. Try to think of positive things in your life and see if it correlates to your disability. For example, I'd say most of the time I'm a pretty good communicator. I'm very empathetic. I'm pretty creative at times. And those all actually do tie into my neurodiversity conditions of dyslexia and dyscalculia. So it can be hard to get caught up in this negativity web of everything that's absolutely terrible in your life. But if you try to focus just a little bit on some positive aspects, it can make you yourself feel freer. And I've said those words probably before, but it's true. The last piece of advice that I want to leave you with is this is not the end of your story. This is just the beginning. When I wrote that journal entry, truly I thought that my life was going to be over. I thought getting my learning disability diagnosis just meant that everything was going to go downhill. That's not true, and it does not have to be true for you either. This is not the door closing on you. This is the door opening on you, because now you have the reasons of why you are a little bit different than other people. And you can figure out approaches and strategies to help yourself. You can curate a toolbox that works with you and not against you. If you have a neurodiverse condition, society was not built for our brains. It wasn't. So we have to adapt to that society. We have to learn ways in which that we can say, hey, can you please do this instead of that? And hopefully people will be accommodating. I'm going to say it again. Research a lot of things. Try to find tutoring and therapy, accommodations, so on and so forth. Just find a lot of different strategies that other people have used and how they can tie into your life too. I'm wishing you all the best, truly. If there's anything that you need, I do have an email. I'll put it bloop right on the screen. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Well, everyone, that wraps up today's video. I have a learning disability TikTok called Jacqueline_Elise. I'll put it on this video. If you'd like more content about learning disabilities, look at that. Also, hit the subscribe button down below, because this is where I'm going to try to focus my time on doing more learning disability related content. Since it's long form, I can spread more awareness on here. If you thought that you have someone in your life who could benefit this video, please share it with them. I hope it will make their day.